Hey guys, before the main video today, I just have to tell you that the replays from this video came from this South Korean CCGS Finals, and I just want to point out that this was the most badass set I've ever seen in Clash Royale. I just loved it. It looks really cool. It's not too big, but the players have chairs. There's the big screen TV in back of them. I just like that. I just wanted to point that out. And by the way, audience has the cutest kids in the world. And look at, they all have like their own messages to give to the players. I don't know what it says, but it's cute as hell if you ask me. So guys, anyway, on to the main video. I'm a pirate on the streets of California. Moving and cruising, we're boozing all until the morning. Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to the main video. So we're gonna be reviewing the gameplay of Sin Woong. Sin Woong is the #1 player in Korea. He is the only player in all of Korea who's locked up a spot at the global finals. I'll be there. I can't wait to meet some of you guys who will be there, or at least see you guys, or maybe you'll see me through the other side of the stream, which it's going to be huge. Anyway, Sin Woong, the only player so far in Korea to qualify to get onto that global stage. Today we're going to be reviewing his amazing 5 legendary deck, which he won 3 matches with in the finals here, that we're going to be highlighting that gameplay of. So I don't know how to pronounce his opponent's name. It's like Swang Pio. Oh man, I'm sorry. I'm not going to say his name. We're just going to call him the blue player. My apologies. I suck at pronunciations. I guess that's what makes me me, guys. I apologize. Anyway, the next qualifier, the invitational qualifier, is going to be on November 19th to figure out who the second player representing Korea is going to be. So certainly subscribe to the Korean Clash Royale YouTube channel. I'll include that in the description below for you guys who are interested. Also, I should mention, we're about almost 2 minutes now, or a minute and a half into this match. Nobody's played a card. I can't lie, this is not super entertaining for viewers at home. I'm going to be releasing a standalone video next week or this weekend talking all about how to fix this issue. It's not the end of the world, but hey, when you're streaming a live event to thousands and thousands, and maybe even in the finals up to 1 million live spectators, you don't want 2 minutes of no action. It's kind of hard on the casters too. How do you vamp for 2 minutes every single time? So anyway, I do have a bunch of possible solutions that I've been thinking of. You guys can feel free to tweet me with your ideas in the interim, and who knows, you might make that video if you care about that sort of thing. Anyway, we're back into the gameplay here. You can see it's a Mega Knight deck. We already said this. It's a 5 legendary deck. Talk about the Payfecta on steroids. It is a monster deck, and the first thing that you're going to want to think of when you think of Sin Woong's deck is defensive power. Has a lot of defensive versatility, and it has some offense too. You have the Bandit and you have the Miner offensively, and pretty much everything else can be the two-way card, right? So did that come out right? Two-way card? I don't know. Anyway, they can go either way. They can perform on defense and they can perform on offense on the counter push, and that's what makes this deck so versatile and so strong and very difficult to go against. Now, at this point in the finals, Sin Woong was actually down 3 games to 2, but he swept the remaining 2 games, came out with the victory overall, winning him a spot at the main stage. So we're going to cover all the replays that he used this deck on during the finals here, and hopefully you guys enjoy the deck if you try it out yourselves. Now, legendary substitutions. That's a real tough one with this deck, but I'll do my best. If you don't have any of these individual cards, I'll go ahead and recommend what I would suggest using. So let's start with probably the easiest one, and that's going to be the Bandit. If you don't have Bandit, you can add in the Battle Ram to give that same bridge spam effect. If you don't have Inferno Dragon, you can add in Inferno Tower to keep that same control aspect of the deck. If you don't want the deck to get more expensive, you can add it in the Tesla. If you don't have E-Wiz, you can go ahead and add in Mega Minion. If you don't have the Miner, that's a tough one, but you can add in the Knight. And if you don't have the Mega Knight, well, that's another tough one, but you can add in the P.E.K.K.A. and make it more of a control type deck. So anyway, we've discussed the subs. Now let's get into the actual gameplay. Now at this point, things are tied 3-3 in the Korean finals, and again, there's a bit of a stalemate here. Now, one thing to note about this deck is it's a little bit on the expensive side, there's no pump and there's no rush to this deck. You definitely want to be reactive, and you definitely don't want to be super aggressive, especially with this deck. This deck has a counter for anything your opponent can possibly throw at you, and we'll see basically domination with this deck. It's very, very difficult, and you know, maybe it should be arguably with 5 legendary cards. Anyway, so here we defend with the Mega Knight and the Ewiz. Ewiz dies, but Mega Knight is good for a little mini push. It can bait out your opponent's zap, as you saw there, force them to use more cards to defend. So Mega Knight with the bats on a counter attack is always a good idea using this deck. Otherwise, you want to pretty much slow play things. You don't want to spam too much offensively on these counter pushes. So on the left lane, you can see a Mega Knight tanking for a Bandit. In the right lane, it's a solo Ewiz. We're going to drop the bats behind the Bandit and the Mega Knight, but again, we're not going to go too strong, but we don't need to. We have the Bandit and the bats are going to take down that left tower. Unbelievable. We basically just caught our opponent with no good defensive options in hand there. He probably has a Giant, a Miner, 2 of his cards at least, and maybe, I don't know, he didn't have Zap. We baited the Zap out. That's why we went ahead and we used the bats there. So with this deck, obviously, like any other deck, you want to pay attention to what spells your opponent has. Primarily Zap. You want to have the Zap in mind because you have 2 reasons for your opponent to use Zap. You can bait out the Zap, especially if you're playing against a beatdown deck, as we saw against Golem and now Giant. You want to bait out the Zap with your bats. That way, your Inferno Dragon will be strong and able to use against the tank. Now, what if you're not playing against a tank deck? Well, you can use your Inferno Dragon actually cycled in the back, and maybe you'll bait out a Zap, and then once you do, you have to be aware of that and try to capitalize going ahead and using the bats on your next push with the Mega Knight or whatever you're going to use. All right, so here we go into this next defense here, and this is going to be a pretty big attack, but we go ahead and we use Poison against that Night Witch, and when the Night Witch is down, we drop the Ewiz, take out the bats. The Giant does get a couple swings on our tower, but check this out. This is going to be a monster counter push here. We throw everything at the opponent. Bats, Bandit, everything, and we have the Inferno Dragon and the Ewiz stopping that Giant before it even gets to the bridge. So now let's watch the third and final match here by Sin Woong. I don't know, guys. I tweeted this out the other day, but I think you can't sleep on Sin Woong and some of the other players, even the China guys who qualified so far. I think there's only been there's been 2 that's qualified. I think, oh gosh, I'm going to draw a blank. I think it's Little Chan, who's qualified so far. Either way, he's also a really good player, and these matches are tough to find. I mean, you really got to know where to look to find these matches, so there's not a lot of scouting reports out there against these guys. So I guess in a small, tiny way, I might be doing Sin Woong a disservice. But anyway, I'll link the entire stream for you guys in the description if you want to watch more gameplay from the Korean finals. It was only this final match on the video that I'll link to you guys, because they had a bunch of like special events and 2v2 action and stuff like that. So obviously, again, we're gonna go ahead and go up against a Golem deck. So I mean, it's pretty basic, right? We're going to use the Inferno Dragon in the back. He's probably going to go ahead and zap the Inferno Dragon if he has it in hand. There it is, the zap, but it doesn't matter. We have enough defense to kind of stymie the support cards in the Mega Knight and the Ewiz, and then we're able to, you know, mitigate any heavy damage onto that right tower. Meanwhile, again, on the counter push here, and you notice on a lot of these counter pushes, we go ahead and we send in the Miner, and check out that, guys. The Miner is tanking for the Mega Knight, something you're really not used to seeing there, and we get a ton of damage onto that right tower. Unbelievably lucrative push there for Sin Woong. So here we go again. We still have the elixir advantage at this point, and we have great tank counters in this deck. So let's see how we handle it. Right now we're bleeding a little bit of elixir. We want to see what the opponent's going to do. We go ahead and mirror his Golem drop with a Mega Knight drop. Of course, again, guys, we have bats and we have Inferno Dragon. We want to bait out the zap, but the opponent's going to be ready for that. So ideally, we just the number one thing you don't want to do is give them tremendous zap value and put the bats anywhere near the Inferno Dragon. So here we go, using the Inferno Dragon and the E-Wiz to kill the golem before it even reaches the bridge. It was a very nice defensive / offensive poison that we used there against that furnace, and again, preventing any big damage onto that right tower. The opponent plays a golem. He has to play it close, but guess what? There's not a lot of time left. He plays essentially a blocking golem along with a supporting cannon cart here on defense. We're going to go ahead and send in that Inferno Dragon again, trying to intercept this golem here. He does use the zap there, and we kind of did what we talked about not to do, right? We gave good zap value, placing those bats right on the Inferno Dragon, but it doesn't really matter here. We have enough elixir to defend with the Bandit and the E-Wiz. However, we do take probably more damage than we would have normally taken there if we didn't give the bats at the same time as the Inferno Dragon there. Easy for me to say. I'm at home in the comfort of at my office in the comfort of my own surroundings and not playing on the big stage here. But here we go. This is the celebration. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this deck, this killer 5 legendary, I don't know, what did I call it? The Payfecta on steroids. It's a pretty crazy deck. If you guys are lucky enough to have all those cards, give it a try for yourselves. Another huge shout out to Nova's own Sin Woong. We'll see him at the Global Finals. I'll see you guys at the Global Finals. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to my YouTube partner, Bren Chong. Check out his information as well in the description below. And as always, take care, guys.